UK Sailmakers presents How to Avoid a Gybe Broach. When sailing dead downwind in heavy air on a boat with a symmetrical spinnaker, control of the boat eventually can become a problem. One wrong wave, an unexpected puff, or momentary loss of concentration by the helmsperson can lead to a gybe broach. This video will give you tips on how to avoid the dangerous, boat-breaking gybe broach. To start with, you can't sail the boat the same way in heavy air as you do in more moderate conditions. You have to trim the sails tighter and sail as much as 10 to 20 degrees higher than dead downwind. To reduce the chances of a wipeout, you need to prevent the boat from heeling to windward. When the boat heels to windward, the center of effort shifts to windward, forcing the boat to turn to leeward. At high speeds, this can make the boat uncontrollable because an attempt to correct the course results in the rudder stalling. Here are some tips to help prevent that from happening. Trim the mainsail tighter than you would in light to moderate air, keeping the vang, Cunningham, and outhaul tight to flatten the sail as much as possible. Many people think they should ease the vang in these conditions, but blowing the vang only works reaching as the boat wants to round up. Instead, the mainsail should be over-trimmed and vang down hard. Ideally, between the sheet and the vang tension, the mainsail should just be kissing the shrouds. If the vang is loose, the upper leech of the main bows around the cap shroud, creating windward pressure on the mast, which heels the boat to windward. When the boat heels to windward, the bow turns to leeward, and if the boat heels too much, the rudder will stall as the helmsman fights to get the hull under the sails. This can lead to a gybe broach. Next, you normally trim the spinnaker pole perpendicular to the wind. To reduce the chances of a gybe broach, ease the pole forward 30 to 45 degrees and carry the pole as low as you dare. If the boat is using double sheets and guys, sheet the sail using the lazy guy led through a block after the leeward shrouds. This will keep the clew from rising and the sail from twisting to windward. As seen in this graphic, with the pole perpendicular to the wind, the forces generated by the sail push the rig to windward. By easing the pole forward, those forces shift to leeward. In either case, the spinnaker should be over-trimmed, which stabilizes it. This far 40 crew is doing everything right. The spinnaker pole is forward perpendicular, the spinnaker sheet is deflected down using a twing, the vang is tight, and the main sheet is trimmed to keep the lower part of the sail off the swept-back shrouds. What gets them in trouble, however, is the momentary lapse of concentration by the helmsman. Notice how things go bad as soon as he turns around to acknowledge the comment, "It's time to take down the spinnaker." The boat heels to windward, the wheels turn to starboard, but the sail plan overwhelms the rudder. Because the sail plan is fighting the rudder, the boat jibes in slow motion. That is until the boom finally comes slamming across. Notice that the tip of the spinnaker pole gets plunged into the water before the boom comes across. The pole breaks because it's being dragged through the water as the boat rounds up at high speed. Luckily, no one was hurt. Everyone had time to duck and hold on. The biggest risks with a gybe broach are having a crew fall overboard, having a crewman hit by the jibing boom, and putting the pole into the water. If you're lucky, and I mean really lucky, the pole arises from the water in one piece. This far 40 crew wasn't that lucky, and their pole snapped. Although this crew lost their pole, they avoided the ultimate gybe broach calamity when the pole doesn't break and the inward force on the mast becomes too much for the rig and it falls down. If things appear to be getting out of hand, douse the chute and wing out the number 3 or number 4 jib using a whisker pole or a spinnaker pole. Winging out the jib is much safer because it immediately stabilizes the boat, with the added fringe benefit of being able to point the boat dead downwind, creating a very high VMG. In heavy air downwind racing, the boats that stay in control make the big gains. Be one of them by reviewing these tips and sharing them with your crew. Then go out in a blow and sail with confidence.